it more like painting in horizontal type format. So if I put my water, I'm going to put it with my mountains here and just kind of get this area wet. Not soaked, but damp. So if it feels like it's puddling, what I would do is pull the water up if it's too much. Okay, and then you have to decide what you want your last color to be. Usually you go darker at the bottom. So I was thinking that I would probably do my purple down there. So she just kind of drops on, and you can drop on as much or as little paint as you want. Now be careful too, because it can like flick, if that makes sense, and you can get little like dots, and you don't want it to kind of go everywhere. So you have to be careful. Notice I'm not going super close, because see how that's puddling and kind of dripping down. So if you see that, grab it and catch it and kind of move it so that it doesn't go into your mountains. You really want to keep this part, white. So your water is going to move around. Just don't get super close to your Sharpie there, because it might bleed into areas that you don't want it to. You also want to use a very small brush like I am. So if you have different brush sizes, make sure you're using a little brush. Okay, and you want to kind of pull this away from your Sharpie. Okay, so you want to pull that away from the Sharpie so that it doesn't bleed down. You can always go back later and add more paint and darken this, but just be careful of kind of painting around your mountains, because you don't want to get paint into those areas that you don't want paint to be in. So you have to be very careful when you're dragging it around these mountains, okay? So that's probably the place that you need to be the most careful with. Again, I would put your darkest color towards the mountains and then kind of work your way up. Now, I can go back, like I said, and add more paint to that, but I'm just going to show you how to blend to the next color. So next I would put down some more water, and then I would choose my second color. I think I'm going to do a regular blue, kind of a turquoise blue almost. And you just kind of start putting that down and kind of gently going over the next color. You can drop it like she did, and then just kind of, if you want to add more water to it, you can add more water and just kind of let it float where it wants to go. If you want it more controlled, you can kind of paint horizontally more. So if you kind of want it to stay, to where it's not, blending a ton, you can kind of paint across the paper and then just kind of blend the two together. Okay, and then what you'd want to do is keep going with your water. And if you're, when you guys are painting, I wouldn't paint this fast. I'm just doing this for the demo because I know I only have 15 minutes for recording. So the next thing I'm going to do is a magenta. I do want that color. So I'm going to mix my purple and my red and get my magenta that I like. More red means brighter pink, more purple would be a more on the purple side. Okay, and then I can just drop this onto the wet, and then I can get more water and just kind of move it around. So this is more of like, I would say more of a sunset type of effect where it's kind of painted horizontally. If you want it to be more haphazard, you can drop it like she was kind of showing you. I'm also going to show you more of a galaxy one too, but you do want to keep your paint transparent, but not quite this light. So once this, you can actually let this layer dry, and you could even go back and do another layer if you want to. Again, I was doing it kind of quickly just to show you what to do, but I would probably go in and darken these colors just a bit because we don't want it to look too faded. So I can add paint, as much as I want. Now, you don't want it to get like soaked to the point where it's too saturated because you might rip your paper. But you can go back in and certainly darken things, but then it's going to leave kind of like a rough line there. So I want to make sure I go in with some water and kind of get that rough line out. Okay. And then if you want to blend something together, it's kind of good to get clean water. Otherwise, I'll drag my blue down into where I don't want blue. And I would try to get rid of these like harsh lines here by using water as an eraser. and I can kind of get in there and get those little spots a little better. Maybe here where I didn't get quite close enough to the mountain, I can go back and kind of rework that area. So watercolor is kind of nice because you can go back in and kind of fix things. And then of course, if you want to blend this out more, you can add, you know, more of this paint and kind of go back in and blend. Also, if you would like to add some clouds, you can use that technique where you just kind of like blot an area and you can kind of make a cloud if you want to. You don't have to do that, but that's just kind of, you know, something else that you might want to keep in mind. If you wanted to have like little areas that look like, you know, clouds, you can kind of pick up a little of the paint and lighten that area and it will look like a cloud. Okay, so that's how you would do the blending. All right. So the next one we're going to look at, and I can show you what hers looks like when she's done. She did more, she did a little more haphazard, which means she kind of dropped the colors.
You're not sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry, hold on. That's okay, because she's just playing.
Kind of work it in layers. So I've covered the whole sky right now, but if I wanted to, I could go back on top and create another layer of color.
Okay. So I'm just showing you that hers is a little more haphazard. Mine is more kind of in lines, like a sunset. So the next one is actually Jen Aranyi's tutorial on how to do a galaxy. Again, we won't watch the whole thing, but we'll get an idea of how she starts.
So then we're going to take our paintbrush and get it wet with a little bit of water. And for this, we're going to be using the wet on wet technique to do the base of the sky. So you're just going to fill in your paper